Some time ago.
Game over.
The movie fades in from a dark black to a slightly less dark black. We're inside a dank, dark, dirty room with no lights. Chains can be heard rattling softly against tile while someone shuffles about. We slowly focus in on Hoffman, still trapped in the bathroom he was abandoned in at the end of Saw 7. Using the skulls of Zepp and Adam, Hoffman uses them to break his foot the same way Eric Matthews did to escape his chains. He crawls around to begin trying to figure out how to escape, screams in frustration, and we cut to title card. Present day. Dr. Gordon had been a busy man over the last 15 years or so.
Hello, Dr. Gordon. You are perhaps my greatest asset.
He and Diana almost divorced, but they were able to recover from the experience of Saw 1, and she even suggested adopting Corbett, Jeff's daughter, when she learned of what had happened to her. The pair even adopted another along the way, and Gordon finally had a son. He also led the Jigsaw survivors group after Bobby Dagan's mysterious disappearance, though his motives have shifted in an effort to further John's ideology and methods in a way that more aligns with William Schenk's thinking, expanding on the idea to make a greater impact.
John Kramer was right, but why limit that to an individual when you can apply it to a whole system?
His followers, survivors of previous tests who had truly changed as a result of theirs, were encouraged to spread John's teachings, with Gordon using the code he constructed, the Book of Saw absent from the movie of the same title, to determine if someone else is worthy of being tested. Over the course of the movie, it's learned that the pieces are being groomed to start their own games. An apostle is charged with preparing and executing a test. If the subject survives, they are led one way or another to the support group. If they express they've been changed for the better, they are invited to become one of the pieces, and the cycle starts over. Ones who do not show the aptitude for change are left to live their lives. The intent is to expand exponentially, with the pieces hoping to change as much of the world for the better by testing and converting as many people as possible. The ones who get called off along the way are simply necessary sacrifices to ensure a better future, examples of how not to be. This practice was started by Gordon years ago and has been almost foolproof. There have been mistakes as time went on, but Hoffman, a boogeyman of sorts among the pieces, has come along to right every wrong far and wide, and take out any members who stray from the path. He has not actively come after the group as a whole, however, and chances are it's because he knows he can't take them all on. There have also been no new games attributed to him, with time and resources being the biggest probable factors. Daniel followed in his father's footsteps like Zeke and became a cop himself, and has been shut out of the Jigsaw cases due to his past involvement, until recently. Members of the Jigsaw support group have turned up in recreations of their original traps and weren't so fortunate the second time around. There are rumors among the pieces and police alike that Hoffman may be behind it, as he was never found. News sites and social media have lit up over the past few years. There's been one-off Jigsaw-style killings reported in as many as 18 states, including 2 recent successful serial killers. People of all walks of life, considered bad by varying degrees, are being wiped out in tests both similar and subpar when compared to John's originals. A pair of dogfighters were fitted with metal claws and forced to duel to the death in a cage before both of their collars exploded. One ambitious set of games involved a group of people at sea who had covered up an accidental scuba drowning. One victim was given a paralytic, fitted with a life vest before being thrown into the water and eaten alive. Another was given the bends after being dropped with an anchor and coming up too quickly once they freed themselves. And the last was killed by a boat propeller while the survivors were trying to escape. In one particularly grisly case, a known child diddler was killed trying to remove a device from his rectum, golf ball sized and lined with fish hooks, before it ballooned inside of him. The sheer number of traps that have popped up over the years, coupled with their varying overall quality, leads detectives to believe there's more than one copycat at play. It's revealed in a flashback that people who had strayed and tried starting their own games with murderous intentions were found out by typical Jigsaw calling cards. People killed by what could only be described as traps, with some even having puzzle pieces cut out of their skin, as well as the lesser quality of their work. Once they were identified and located, they were put into the same game they'd devised for their victims. And this brings us back to Daniel being briefed on the cases that have piled up in the last few years. Daniel brought in Zeke due to his involvement, and together they begin to interview the Jigsaw survivor group. They're turning up no leads, until Daniel interviews Gordon. Gordon makes mention of everything having started for him when he was tested himself and came out a better man for it. How he wasn't the only good thing to come out of that room. Gordon had met Daniel, but something about the words and the way he says them makes Daniel pull his and his father's case file. When his missing SUV was located using GPS, the history had been logged but had turned up no luck in locating the house, because no one else knew exactly where it was. Daniel had escaped with Amanda and saw outside before he was bagged. Now that he had the possible locations, he starts cross-referencing to see what areas and houses look familiar. After some searching in person, he's able to find the still abandoned house. Zeke stops Daniel from trying to walk up or break in because this is a house of Jigsaw. The place is probably rigged like every other. Trucks beat traps, he hopes, and he's tired of this shit. Together they make their way inside, by crashing their truck into one of the walls facing the street. Zeke's thought is that it's not like it's going to blow up, that only happens in the movies. But he and Daniel make their way downstairs before noticing that the truck's leaking gas. Once in the house, and through the wreckage, it's a short trip to the iconic bathroom. And once they open the doors, they find Hoffman's corpse. He would have bled or starved to death in the room after breaking his own foot, but he eventually chose to off himself by cutting his throat using the severed piece of Dr. Gordon's foot. And yes, I realize that he could have killed himself with the broken glass or the toilet shard, but that wouldn't be poetic, just shitty.
I really wish I had checked in there first.
Schenk, really Charlie Emerson, was orphaned after having lost his father prior to Spiral, and eventually was adopted by the Gordons. He and Lawrence became close along the way, and their shared traumas led to Gordon being completely open with him when Charlie continued to ask why his father deserved to die. Gordon dug into Charlie's history. He learned of Article 8, Marcus, the department, and set Charlie on his path, knowing that he had already been tested at a young age, so to speak. He knew Charlie had a rage in him that would more than likely make him a killer, so he focused him on what he saw as justice, had him assist with traps as training, and then sent him on his way. What no one else knew was that Charlie was aware of Hoffman's fate, and he helped Gordon keep the pieces in check under the guise of Hoffman coming to set things straight. Something else nobody knew was that with gentrification coming to the area, Charlie had been keeping tabs on the house in case people started getting too close. When it was broken into, he was made aware, came to find Daniel and Zeke had already located the bathroom and were making their way back to the exit. Knowing they're about to go make the news public, Charlie confronts Daniel and Zeke, telling them that Hoffman's death needs to remain a secret so that the pieces will remain in check. That without him, without the fear of him, the pieces could do more bad than good. Zeke, determined to bring Charlie to justice for what happened to his father, decides to relent. He says that if Charlie turns himself in and tells them what he knows about the pieces, they'll do what they can to cover up the scene and keep things quiet, until the leaking gas from the truck ignites. The explosion kills all three men, and just like that, the jig is up. Yes, I had to. News spreads quickly of the bizarre incident that took the lives of a detective, a former Jigsaw victim, and a Jigsaw killer. The investigation of the house uncovers a grisly treasure trove of murder, evidence, and truth. Hoffman is dead, and he had been for some time. Forensics have also linked Gordon to the bathroom using DNA taken from the little souvenir he left there. He wonders to himself if he's failed his ultimate test of passing on John's legacy. He wonders if people really can live their lives tested but unchecked.
I don't think so.
Police knock at his door as he turns off the news, and he knows that whether he did or didn't, whether people can or can't, for his old way of life, it's game over.